anything but a good mood. All the more reason to discuss the same group that has been very much at the center of my disillusion for the last couple of days. An instant recap would be that the Justice Democrats were founded earlier this year, a couple of days after President Trump's inauguration, on the idea that if you had a coalition of people who were dedicated to getting money out of politics, you could see some effectiveness on the state and local level. Now, a couple of days ago, one of the founders, Cenk Uygur, was propelled to resign after these very, 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 very ancient messages that he had written 18 years ago were discovered, and that led to the other founder, the host of Secular Talk, whose last name I cannot pronounce. How you doing with the fresh? So, part of my reason for being as bothered by it, because one could argue, oh well, you've never been a member, you don't consider yourself a person who identifies as being part of the Democratic Party, but nonetheless, one has to really recall how things used to be to understand why it's problematic in how things are. There was a time in the U.S. where people of different ideologies could have opposing viewpoints, and they could appear to actually just be that, opposing viewpoints. Now, whenever you hear someone voice an opinion that is very, very unpopular, i.e. no gun control, which is a basic amount is supported by 60% of the American people or more, you're going to have in the back of your head this idea that gun lobbyers are responsible for that. And some people would say, well, they're just people who don't want gun control. I'm not doubting that at all. But because of the legalized bribery that we've had in place for the last couple of decades, there is this belief system that certain viewpoints are not or cannot be interpreted as actually being how that person feels. But nonetheless, I have no doubt that those members of the Justice Democrats who were involved in getting Cenk out of there genuinely feel that he's part of the patriarchy and all of these other ways in which women have been wronged and things of the past and of the present era that I'm not disputing, but what is kind of, and really this is the center of what I'm trying to discuss here, is that I feel, and I think a large number of people feel, that when you go beyond the initial cause of a group, it can have mixed results. So if I started a group that is designed to only help out small children in their learning and introduction to adult type subjects such as paying taxes and various just means of doing things you're going to have to worry about when you're in your older years, and then later on I extend it to include people who, I don't know, are almost adults, 16, 17, 15, 14, then it becomes a group that potentially can do more than what it intended to do in a positive way. But in the case of the Justice Democrats, within any political group there exists a faction that is just tired, and when I say tired, I mean they are sick of the way some particular issue is. For a large number of us, we were tired of having these politicians that said one thing and took money behind the scenes, they're all this dirty paper, to do the exact opposite. We were sick of it. There was a sizable portion of us just said we're tired of it, we don't want this anymore, and in response to this, that group was formed. The problem is they've done this thing, at least a sizable number that were on that staff, where they've tried to incorporate many of these feminist beliefs that in and of themselves aren't necessarily bad, but they go to these extremes. We went from complaining about individuals that were accused of some type of assault, whether or not you believe it or not, they were accused of actually doing something to someone, to going after a person who not only isn't accused by anybody of doing anything, but if anything has actually been against many of these ways in which women have been wronged. Um, but and let me respond to one of fresh feminists just have nothing left to complain about. Yeah, pretty much. But you have to also get this: they're trying to take their complaints with the overall system that exists within the United States, of this, admitted male patriarchy in some parts, and they're pushing it into areas where it doesn't belong. And one of the areas it didn't belong in was this group. Think of how the Justice Democrats would be if they said, you know what? He said some stuff that we're not in favor of. He disavows those views. He hasn't expressed them since then. And we're going to move on. This is a non-issue. We have to focus on the main subject. If the only purpose of this group was, hey, let's get money out of politics. We don't care if you're, pro or anti-abortion or just anything that is typically not favored by people on the left. As long as you actively will not take any PAC money and you do not favor keeping that cash in there, you're good. If it had just stayed as that, I can guarantee this group would probably have, at the very least, acquired a large number of House seats, because it would have been an actual showing of unity. Hey, look, you believe in this, I believe in that, but we both believe in taking this filthy cash that has corrupted many of the occupants of the White House, of these Senate seats, of these governorships, of these various seats in the House, and we're going to stop that together. Even though we have different beliefs on everything else, we believe that being corrupt is no good. If they'd done that, this group would it would be on a level that the likes of which the U.S. has probably never seen. Just as there are a number of people who would say that the issue of cancer research unites people. We all hate that disease. And it's through unified discontent with something that most situations get resolved. You have various criminals that are found by police departments because the community says we're fed up with this person committing these crimes, and the crime is solved or the person who's doing it gets caught. You have to have a unified voice among people who disagree to an extent or to just a large extent to actually signal some difference or variance in what you have. And when you proceed to just have this group that says, well, you know what, we're going to not only be for this, but we're also going to be for that and be for this, you start turning people off. And, I had people in the comments section a couple of days ago saying that they weren't going to back this group anymore. I can't blame them. People are tired of being held to these standards of purity test in which you can do no wrong or else you're just disavowed. It doesn't matter how much you say this was false, I shouldn't have done it, I shouldn't have said it. And again, we're talking about words. They basically have, and really one has to understand this. They are saying that if you say something we don't like, that is you will get the same punishment if you're in this group, that of being disavowed, if you did something we didn't like. Cenk could have, for example, touched somebody, and obviously that would have been worse than saying something, but would they have treated it as if it were worse? No, they would have still gotten rid of him in the way that they did now. So it's this idea that any type of straying away from the belief system we have at any point in your life is met with the same results. If he had been a person who had actually committed a crime, they would have thrown him out as they did, or voted him out. If he had been a person who had just completely acted out on his viewpoints, they would have rightfully gotten rid of him. We're talking about a person who said something they didn't like. And there should be a statute of limitations on that, especially when you don't voice that same opinion. Nearly the complete opposite, in fact. But I don't understand why this is so hard to believe, why they can't understand where we would be aggravated at this. So Winifred says, these times are rather segregated, filled with snowflakes and false allegations on animosity for the white man. All of them are bad. Human beings aren't perfect. Well, that's kind of the point I'm making. You can't have a society that says to you, you have to fit every ideal that we have, or you're just barred. And that's what they're trying to create with that group. It went from having a really good idea. We're going to get this corrupting cash out of our government to let's just go crazy and start being for everything that the feminist wave is for. And that's really what is despicable to me. And it pains me to say that given the fact that I agree with a majority of the platform of most of their candidates. You know, single payer, all of that. But I'm not falling into this narrative of every single person that is male must be a type of way or just throw them out. So I'm tired of it. I hope other people are. Thank you to Winter Fresh for participating in this. I will have something else out soon.